Hey everyone, welcome. We're live. We have three of us, two special guests. Mazza Media, my buddy here, back again. I don't know if the second, third night. I don't know. I've lost
It's
track. What is it?
third night this week.
Third
Yeah.
night this week, and also the excellent criminal defense attorney. People are loving his takes, his commentary. Mark Bederow back
My mother
again.
appreciates that. Thank you.
Thank you both for being here tonight.
You're
Sure.
welcome. Just another day in the neighborhood of the world of the Karen Reed saga. It's we're gonna be in for the long haul here, but the grind is getting underway for sure.
Today, more witnesses, EMTs, and firefighters. What do you guys think about today?
Go ahead.
Sure. I'll kick it right off. Thank you, Mark. So, two of the four said that they heard Karen Reed said, "I hit him," and the other person, Matthew Kelly, I believe his name was, had not indicated that he had heard Karen Reed say, "I hit him." It is really for Francis Walsh, not Francis Walsh, I'm sorry, Anthony Flamati. He said, "I hit him," and he insisted on this. And it wasn't long before Alan Jackson tore right into him, asking him a series of questions such as, "Can you point to the portion of your report where you indicate that my client said the words 'I hit him'?" Flamati went on to answer, "My report doesn't say that." Alan Jackson then said, "How about the part where you indicate that you told the doctors and nurses that she said I hit him?" Flamati says, "My report doesn't say that." Alan goes, "Can you point to the portion of the report that your concern for the patient was that he had been hit by a car?" And Flamati, for the third consecutive time, says, "My report doesn't say that," or "It doesn't say that." And then Alan Jackson really launches in here. "You indicated under direct examination that you were, quote unquote, looking for anything that we can pass on to the emergency room that would assist them." And Flamati says, "Yes." And then Alan Jackson says, "Do you think it might have been of assistance to the emergency room personnel to indicate that you believe that this person may have been hit by a car?" A couple objections sustains. Um, Ellen rephrases, "Do you believe that it would have been an important piece of information to pass on to the emergency room for assistance?" This time Bev allowed the question. Flamati goes, "It would have been important, yes." And then Alan Jackson goes, "But it's nowhere on your reports, correct?" Flamati agrees, it's not in his reports. Alan Jackson goes, "You didn't tell that to the police when you were interviewed 8 days later?" And then Alan Jackson interjects. He goes, "My question is, did you tell the police 8 days later or 9 days later when you were interviewed? And did you tell the grand jury that you had heard this?" And Flamati says, "No." And Alan Jackson goes, "And you didn't mention on direct examination in front of these jurors, did you?" So he didn't mention this to anybody in front of the grand jury, in front of anybody. So Alan Jackson, they heard Flamati actually admit that Karen Reed said, "I hit him." And then Alan Jackson goes right after his report here, and which I just kind of loosely summarized. And every single time, I got at least 5 or 6 indicators here where Flamati doesn't even, he says, "No, I didn't. It's not in my report. It's not in my report." At least 6 occurrences where none of this is in his report at all. It was a great way to refute a testimony by Alan Jackson today, to just basically say, well, if this is so important, then why isn't it in your reports? Why didn't you tell the police? Why didn't you tell doctors and nurses? And additionally, this is the other thing I said earlier today on my page on X was, how the hell do you have all these people? You have 3 people now that we've learned, Katie McCaughlin and Nuttall from yesterday or 2 days ago, both saying that they had heard her say, I hit him," multiple times. And then none of them, that I believe, have actually told the cops this until roughly a later time and date. Not on Flamati's report at all. It's incredible. And it's just, what the hell? So that's all I'm going to say as my intro today.
Incredible is kind. I mean, it's not believable. It's incomprehensible. And I guess to be a lawyer, more importantly, it's not credible. You have, by my count, if I'm wrong, you'll correct me, one police officer and 3 EMTs or whatever they are saying in some fashion that she made damning statements. The police officer said she admitted, "This is my fault," or words to that effect. You have 3 or so EMTs claiming that she said, "I hit him," which is even more important because that could mean a car, which again is the whole premise of their case. And so you have 4 witnesses who remember in May of 2024 that this happened, but apparently in late January and early February of 2022 couldn't see fit to tell the police that, oh, by the way, you're now investigating her and arresting her for mowing this guy down. And, oh, she told me I hit him. So that's not believable, number one. Number two, how did none of these people come into contact with each other during this scene? I mean, how many times are you going to hear that individuals were told this and no one else heard it? They didn't tell anyone else, and nobody follows up on this, whether it's the police or whoever. I mean, as far as the paramedics are concerned, they're telling you we needed as much information as possible to treat her, which of course is true. Treat him, excuse me. They want as much information as they have. They want to try to save a life. So here she comes and says, I hit him. And they're not saying, ma'am, what do you mean? Did you punch him? Did you run him over? Did you stab him? Did you what? What do you mean? Where did you hit him? What's going on? What happened? They don't do that. It's not believable. The police officer in particular. I mean, how do they not go to the cops and say, listen, she said she hit him? How do they not interview her? I mean, if there are all these people hearing this, how do they not at least attempt to ask her in detail, what do you mean? What do you mean? So none of this makes any sense. And then you have some of these witnesses are saying, well, I told the doctors, the guy today who, at least on direct, court TV was, giving hallelujahs over the direct testimony. And even then I was saying, why don't you wait for the cross? Why don't you, come down from the chandelier that you're swinging on and relax and let's hear cross. Nothing gives you truth more than cross. And with this Flametti guy, I mean, you got a lesson in that again. And he says, well, I told these people at the hospital. Where are they? Are they on the DA's witness list? I'm guessing no. Where are all these other people? With the one today who hasn't even been cross-examined yet, my God, is she going to get slaughtered?
Oh, she's getting slaughtered.
What do you think is going to happen tomorrow to her?
Well, I think she's...
That may be Monday, I believe, because of the 34 beer. Oh, they're going to do it tomorrow?
They Bev, well, this is what Bev said at the end. If you listen right at the end of the hearing, she said, we're going to start tomorrow morning with the cross.
You have to do that.
And then once we're done with that, then we're going to go to 34.
You can't leave her direct hanging and then go do something else.
That's correct.
Again, with what is the DA doing? Take away the statements that she claims were made. Other than that, she's another redundant witness with the same old, tell me about the weather and all of this stuff. And they know, the DA that is, they know that she has a relationship with the Alberts, as everyone saw today in, her bikini shot or whatever the hell that was. And so if you're the DA, why would you call? I mean, what are you doing? Why are you once again adding to the defense theory? This is nuts. Okay. If her statement was corroborated by the people that she claimed heard, which of course they don't have, maybe if it was written down, they don't have. They're all falling in the pattern how none of them remember when they were interviewed, but when it came time to the grand jury, they all remember. All they're doing is feeding the defense narrative. And then you sprinkle a little, she's friends with the Alberts, and this is a joke. And as far as, none of them telling the cops in any notes, there's a saying, certainly in the New York City Police Department, where they have these detective reports. They're called DD5s. That's what every detective has. They write down everything. Okay. If they go to the bathroom, they write it down in an investigation. Anything they learn or anything they do, they write it down. And every single New York City detective will tell you they're familiar with an adage. If it ain't in a 5, it didn't happen. Okay. They write it down, and they write it down for a number of reasons. So they can't get cross-examined 2 years later about, oh, I just made something up, or I don't remember, or they have to pass on the information to another detective. They leave the job, whatever. And the fact of the matter that none of these people apparently told the detectives, the investigators in the early stages, including the one who is, ground zero of the corruption allegation here, that this happened. is very telling. And the fact that that guy Proctor wouldn't have something written down tells you a lot too, because you'd have to think that if he heard something in the early stages that would help stick it on Karen Reed, he would. So these witnesses are a joke, and it's, I mean, enough. I mean, at what point do you just throw your hands up and say, you know, are you going to do this for days? Enough. It's annoying. It's ridiculous. It's offensive.
I wonder if
how
the
is it
jury's at
possible?
that point. You think the
How is
jury's
it
feeling like that?
possible that none of these people are documented to have told the investigators or told each other, or that there's some corroboration for what they say, such as a police officer saying, ma'am, can we talk to you? What do you mean you hit him? Can you explain that? Oh, well, I hit him. You know, I might have backed into him. Well, she appears intoxicated. Ma'am, were you drinking tonight? How are they not asking those questions? How are they not asking her to take a breath test? How are they not doing anything? How are they not wondering where the hell the other guy's shoe is? Okay. I mean, where is the shoe? Right? The little things like that. It's like they have no interest in doing anything. And just, you know, the cherry on the ice cream was the DA today making sure that the other witnesses were airtight in remembering that, you know, O'Keefe wasn't wearing a puffy jacket, that they were all, you know, well coached overnight to make sure they said he only had a hoodie on, which I'm not sure how that helps them either. All that does is establish that the guy from yesterday or a couple of days ago, you know, misremembered or whatever the word is. But, you know, again, these are the key DA witnesses. These are the ones that should put her in a car admitting guilt, and they're all just completely discredited. It's a complete shit show.
I like what you said. If it's not in the 5, then it didn't happen. If they didn't put it in the report, then why the hell are you testifying that you heard that she said, I hit him? I hit him.
Well, wait till they, you know,
Yeah.
let's assume that, you know, Proctor or other officers, you know, when they testify, who took reports, you know, you interviewed these people, you asked them to tell. I mean, the cross of these people writes itself. You know, you wanted to make sure you got all the information, you know, and, you know, if they had told you that she said, I did it, you know, officer, whoever, is that something important? Yes. Is that the kind of thing you might want to write down? Yes. But you didn't write it down. Right. So did they tell you that? No. Right. I mean, what could the answer be for every single one of them?
It lends itself back to the taillight theory, which is the repeated visits and interviews that Michael Proctor kept doing that were unannounced, unplanned visits, undocumented visits. And then you see these people testifying that she said, I hit him. But then when you look at the substance of it all, well, did you tell the doctors and nurses? Did you tell the police? Did you put it in your report? And every step of the way, it's no, every single time. So it sounds to me like this is a retroactive statement that they're making, that they somehow down the road in a matter of days or whatever it was, suddenly turned around and said, oh yeah, I heard her say it.
And what did they do? Dig the taillight fragments out of the snow?
That's what they're claiming. Seriously. Yeah.
That's what they're claiming. They dug snow days later and found multiple pieces of taillight.
Right. When the Canton police were there hours earlier and testified under oath, 2 of them, Mulaney and Saraf, that they didn't even see any taillight under the snow, and it was significantly lower at that particular point than it was when the state police got there. Yeah.
You know what's interesting too? We keep talking about how none of this could be, which it appears to be the case. The real problem for the DA is it doesn't have to be. Again, they have the burden. Reasonable doubt, I mean, is their problem. And you're throwing out all these things that we're talking about, and you're way past reasonable doubt. You're almost at a point where you're blowing up everything they say, leading to a conclusion that they probably are doing something really sketchy here. I mean, I just can't accept at this point that 4 to 5 witnesses claim to have heard her say something and did nothing about it. If that's true, if you live in Canton, move. Like, seriously, these people are dumber than dumb. They're not competent. Just leave. And the reality, I'm kidding, obviously. The reality is it has all the indicia of being coached later after the fact when they decided that they were going to do her for this. And where do they go from here? I don't get it. I really don't.
Let's talk. I want to go back to McLaughlin because people are asking this question.
Yeah.
Turtle Boy reported about McLaughlin. It's obvious that she is friends with the homeowner daughter, Caitlin Albert. Do you think that's going to come up in cross-examination
Yes,
tomorrow?
100.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, I mean, look, their whole theory is this is some degree of protecting the Alberts. I mean, right down to the fact that whoever issued the dispatch, miraculously pushed it to the neighbor's yard, which is ridiculous. So yeah, of course it will. And the reality is, if she was one of these redundant witnesses who basically had nothing to say other than it was snowing and I responded and, we pushed them into the ambulance and that sort of thing, would I necessarily go after her because of, Facebook pictures or whatever? No, because, what's the point? You're beating something that hasn't hurt you. But all of a sudden, here she comes with what I heard, and it was in the presence of a police officer, and the mystery officer unknown, right? That's his name, Officer Unknown, or what we'd call like Fanu Lanu, first name unknown, last name unknown. The
John Doe, yeah, John Doe.
And not for nothing, if the DA was smart when she said that, if they believe it, which who knows what they believe. There's only so many cops on the scene, right? This is not, I mean, obviously it's a big scene. There's a man dead on the lawn, and there's going to be ambulances, EMTs, police officers, but not that many. So it's a closed universe of possibilities of people that she could have told. Is the DA really incapable of producing the cop who says, I'm there, I heard it, she told me? Which, of course, would only lead to then, Officer Idiot, why didn't you do something about this, right? I mean, again, a police officer more than anyone, more than an EMT, you would blame for not at least somebody's making incriminating statements. A man is dead on the lawn, and you allegedly have a woman claiming, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. You know how cops are. They ask questions.
Absolutely.
But they're not doing it. Why is that? It's crazy.
Well, we know that additionally, Caitlin Albert and Katie McLaughlin, as reported by Turtle Boy earlier this afternoon in his article, with a screenshot confirming that Caitlin, too much basketball talk, sorry. Caitlin Albert is also Venmo friends with Katie McLaughlin. That's
Venmo, as in like send me money?
That is correct. That is correct. There is an actual screenshot on Turtle Boy's article this afternoon that showed that screenshotted, circled, and everything, documenting that. So the images, I mean, so I guess it plays in their favor, because if it's just not enough to have pictures of two people together. Well, we hang out occasionally, but this is even more concrete now, because it's just like, well, there's multiple pictures of you guys. There's pictures of you guys going on spring break together. There's Venmo images here. Yeah, Caitlin Clark, I talk about her all the time. I'm a basketball fan, so I came out of my mouth responding to the comments, people.
But this is another example of this prosecutor. Like, if you're going to do this, number one, you shouldn't do this. I mean, this is a witness I'm not calling. I'm sorry. This is just too much. But if you feel so desperate that I need to get out another claim statement, to impress the, that other side of the table who scream and yell about she admitted it. If you're going to do that, then for the love of God, would you please elicit on direct, by the way, do you know who lived at that house, and do you know any of their relatives? And then you can even say, does that have any influence on what you did that night or what you're testifying today? And she'll say no. She's still going to get crossed on it. But you know what? The DA looks transparent. They look honest, but they don't do it. And so it's going to come out on cross. And how many times does this have to happen before the jury is looking at the DA and saying, what are you hiding from me? Why do you continuously make this sound like there's nothing going on here? And every time it takes me to hear from the defense about what's wrong with these people, or how they're conflicted potentially, or why it is they didn't tell anyone. I mean, you'd think by the third time of like not writing down statements that this DA might get the memo and, kind of get into that or try to deal with that on direct. And they don't. And it's mind-blowing.
It's unbelievable.
It is.
Especially when Turtle Boy has already, like, he's put this article out tonight, but he's already posted those pictures in the past. Like, this has already been covered.
Yep.
Like, this isn't like this should not be a mystery to Lally that McLaughlin and Albert are friends. Like, he should have addressed this. You're right. He should address this like first question. Like, he should have, or he shouldn't have brought her to the stand as one of his witnesses.
Yeah,
like,
good point.
It's just
It opens
he's
them up.
so unprepared.
He shouldn't have called her. And, again, their witness list is bizarre in the sense they're calling too many EMTs to say the same thing. They try to get out the statements. It turns into this fiasco on cross. And he's giving the impression, I'm going to call anyone and everyone who had anything to do with this, except for the cop who interviewed Jennifer McCabe, as we know is not on their witness list, because we don't want to have her testify about this, Hail Mary that they were doing in the car, which led to the Google search analysis and all that. They don't, they don't look like honest brokers in this process. They don't. And prosecutors are supposed to be the white hat, the good guy. And in this case, they're not. They don't look like it. They look sneaky. They look desperate. They look incompetent. And they're losing badly.
Now, somebody said this, and I'm wondering, because I might have heard this. I was walking dogs today while I'm listening. So it said he did ask her at the end today if she knew the Alberts, and she said no. Did anyone else hear that?
Boy, I didn't come across that.
I will confess, I didn't see the end of her testimony because, believe it or not, I do other things besides talk about this.
We all do
professionally. But I will tell you this: if that happened, and I hope maybe somebody can confirm or dispel that, if she denied knowing any Alberts, and there are photographs of her with Alberts and a Venmo relationship with her and Alberts, then I don't know who to blame more: the perjuring witness, who is just dumber than dumb, or the DA, who is whatever comes after dumber than dumb, to allow that and also not correct that. But
people are saying they did not hear it. It sounds like they might have been for Jennifer McCabe, actually, that was asked about. I'm not sure. But
you know what, though? That's sneaky. If she said, do you know Jennifer McCabe, but didn't ask about the Alberts, again, how intellectually dishonest and sneaky does the DA look? Right? I mean, the McCabe's and Alberts are kind of in the same boat here from the defense perspective. So if you're trying to establish that she's an independent witness with no skin in the game because she doesn't know the McCabe's, well, what about the Alberts? Oh, I didn't ask that. And then the defense produces pictures and a Venmo relationship.
Right.
It's dishonest.
Yep. Plays in the defense's hands, makes Karen look good. That when you think there's a conspiracy,
that's the worst thing the DA could have done. If I see somebody saying they definitely asked about the McCabe's. If he asked about the McCabe's, but not the Alberts, and then the defense is armed with conclusive proof that she has a very strong relationship with the Alberts, all it does is they establish it on cross. You make a note, and in summation, whenever that may be, if this case even makes it that far, at this point, I have starting to wonder whether it will. But if it does, that they sit there and say, look at the case that they presented to you. Look how they did it. Why did this come out on cross? Why did we have to call the one cop who interviewed McCabe? Why did we have to extract all of this information? They're the ones who are supposed to tell you and prove this, and they're cherry picking. Okay, that's the word. They're cherry picking evidence, and they're making the defense look like the good guys. They're giving the defense, the control, the narrative of the case. Everything's fitting into their theory that something stinks here, and Lally makes it worse every time he opens his mouth.
We got a lot of listeners. Last night we had quite a few listeners. Tonight we're headed that way too. We just kept throughout last night's show. It just kept going up and up and up. We got over 1,300 at the peak live listeners last night. Right now we're and that's just YouTube. I'm not counting Twitter or Facebook. YouTube right now we're at 964. So if you're watching right now on YouTube, please like us, subscribe to us, follow us, all that. Please do that for us. Appreciated all the likes last night. We had over almost, I think, 700 likes on the live last night. It was amazing. So
you're just under 300 views on X right now too. So you're over 1,000.
Yeah. Yeah, we have it's a 3. X is weird because it doesn't show I don't think it shows the live viewers. I think it shows
Oh,
the
okay.
total viewers. What do you
Oh,
think?
okay. I'm not sure. No
Yeah.
experience in that.
Yeah, I think X like what do you call it? Like pads their numbers or
Oh,
boosts
okay.
like it's like I don't know. It's
Yeah.
weird. Because sometimes there's so many X listeners and I'm like there's no way there's more X listeners than YouTube.
YouTube. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to thank everyone who's been supporting us, liking us. A lot of questions coming in. If you want to ask Mark a question, this is a good time. Post it in the comments right now, and we'll ask him. What do you have any good questions you want to ask right now, Maz, or any comments?
No, I'm just actually about going back to Katie McLaughlin. Do you see any scenario where the defense asks her if she's friends with Caitlin Albert, and then actually
No,
have photos on a screen that actually show?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, you can cross any number of ways. Sometimes, for certain witnesses, and some of it's feel, you come out, you punch them in the mouth right away, freak them out, get them under control. Other times, you kind of pull the string, set them up, and when they take the bait, just club them over the head if that's what it takes. Which mostly, by the way, is what Jackson has been doing very effectively, kind of laying the trap and letting them walk into it. With this one, I got to tell you something. I would come right out point blank and just say, do you know anyone in the Albert family? And see what she says.
Yeah.
Because if she says no,
Yeah.
you club her on that and it's over with her. Okay.
So,
But the other thing on cross with her, I mean, again, you could hold it back, you could do other things, but who's this police officer that you talked to about this? What is he? I don't know his name. What did he look like? Who did he come with? Did you tell this to the DA? Did you do this? Did you da da da? You know what I would do? I would take out their witness list. I would read every single cop's name. Is this him? Is this him? Is this him? Who is it? What are you talking about? It makes no sense.
apparently
Why didn't you tell the police in your interview? Why didn't you tell all these people? You're an EMT. You're trying to treat someone. She told you this. Did you see other police officers? Why didn't you anything? Why didn't you make a note yourself? Why didn't you try to talk to her? I mean, you could just, the reality is, you could probably cross-examine, chew her up and spit her out in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
She's awful. Okay. And, if you've been doing this a long time, this starts to know, you can smell some witnesses are better at this than others. She's not good at this. She looks shifty. She looks, a little sneaky, in my view, where, some of them looked a little better until they got cross-examined. She's not even under cross, and she already looks a little, little mealy here, I think. So I think they're going to destroy her tomorrow. And then you have to sit there and look at the DA and say, any more of this, or are we done? And can we move on to another topic other than the snow? And, she said, I hit him.
Now we've had some feedback from Nick Rocco, who's in the courtroom. He said that when Jackson and Yannetti Little are defending, the jury leans in. They seem to pay attention more. What do you think that's a sign of? Like if when you're giving your cross and the jury's paying attention to you, how do you feel as a defense attorney at that point?
If you are doing your job and look, lawyers, believe it or not, all jokes aside, are people too, lawyer jokes aside. And what I mean by that is, your human nature is this. Even when you're working in a case and you're cross-examining, you're focused on the task, but there is a human component to it where in the back of your mind, it can come in and then you push it out. Is this working or is this not working? That does come in your mind. And any lawyer who says it doesn't, I think, it does. So, when you're on and when maybe, this isn't going so great. And part of that, you peek over at the jury and you look around. And if jurors are leaning in when you're making points, I hate to read tea leaves that you really are not equipped to read, because at the end of the day, you don't know what the hell a juror is thinking. But if they're leaning in, they're listening, you have their attention. They want to know where you're going. They understand the point you're trying to make, and they want to know what's next. This is interesting. So if that's the case, that's very good. That's probably the best. Again, with full caveat, you're reading tea leaves that maybe you can't read, but jurors leaning in and at rapt attention is the best sign you'll ever get that something's working here.
Got a good question here. Jason Silverman says, are you open to seeing that she might actually be guilty? Or are you just talking about reasonable doubt and lawyer tricks? O'Keefe's family deserves justice. My heart breaks for them. I mean,
Well,
I'll say it myself. I'll just say that I think she's innocent. Just from everything I've seen, I'm open to it. I was open to it. I even took a break on all this stuff because I was so worried that we could be wrong. But everything I've seen, I mean, even beyond, I'm worried that the lawyer tricks are going to screw her, even though she's innocent. But I'm going to have faith in the justice system. What do you have to say, Attorney Mark Bederow?
Well, I would start backwards there isn't a normal person with any shred of dignity who would not agree that the O'Keefes deserve justice. I mean, they have a dead family member, they're innocent victims, but I would tell you this: there's no justice for John O'Keefe unless the real person responsible for his death is held responsible. And now his family may not feel that way, but I can tell you, having dealt with on both sides of this kind of situation with murder victims' families, you just have to give them a wide berth. You're not going to ever convince them because they've been told for 2 years that Karen Read is guilty. And you want to believe that. You want answers, okay? You don't want to, obviously they want to know the truth, but so I would say that there's no justice for John O'Keefe unless whoever's responsible is ever caught. Am I open to Karen Read being guilty? If she's guilty, sure. I'm not her lawyer. I don't know who she is. I'm just here commenting as somebody who does this for a living. If the evidence supports her guilt, then she should be held accountable. And I'm open to that. If any sane person, again, you know what I'm going to say, non-Wendy class wants to try to convince me or convince you or come on, which I think you should welcome them. We could have a debate about this, about what the evidence shows.
They won't come on here.
No, of course not.
The thing is, Jason is saying he did honestly think she was innocent. However, he's completely changed his mind. I would like to know why Jason changed his mind. Like, what, based on what evidence? Like, because what aren't we seeing? Like, you make that statement, we'd love to know why. Like, because what we found a lot of times is the people change their minds because Turtle Boy made fun of them.
Yeah, that's right.
Or they have
or
they have a conflict of interest. They're friends with the McAlberts, or they are McAlbert. I mean, these are the main reasons. Or they're like Wendy and they want to be on TV, or like Kevin. Kevin wouldn't be on court TV tonight if he was on the Karen Read side. He would just be another of 50 people like myself broadcasting, promoting this stuff. But he's the only one they got. So that's why he's on court TV tonight. So I think people like him have an agenda to be contrarian, to get on television and to gather
But I would even say this. I'm looking at the comment from Jason who says, I thought she was factually innocent, but I changed my mind. My question to him would be, what does that mean? Because the defense does not have to establish that she's factually innocent. They don't have to establish anything. The prosecution has to establish that she's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in Massachusetts to a moral certainty.
I love that. To a moral I can't even say it.
Well, that's
to
brutal.
A moral
it really is. That's a problem for them. But the point is, you can believe or say I'm troubled by some of this evidence. I don't understand. I think if 4 people said she admitted this, it must mean something. But the question is, in light of everything else that do you have any space in your mind to believe that there is a reasonable possibility, a plausible explanation that she's not guilty? And that's where I, initially have come out on this, which is, how can they possibly fill that gap? And what I was ranting and raving about earlier a couple of hours ago was, the more I hear them call their so-called important witnesses, and the more they're not, and they're not important witnesses. And the DA knows this, and they have known this for a couple of years, that they're really not that impressive. They say things that sound dramatic, they sound incriminating, but if you take it in the full context of what was going on in January 22, in early February, when the police were, up to their neck, in the couple of months after she got arrested. And then you juxtapose that by the time they get to the grand jury, and then every single one of them in lockstep says, I heard her say, she hit him, she hit him, she hit him. You start saying, maybe that defense theory is accurate. Because why did they all seem to remember in April, but nobody wrote it down in late January? And if that's a coincidence, that is one hell of a coincidence and true. But when you're judging this on a reasonable doubt standard, please.
All right. So this is his rationale because of her behavior toward the family right after, and comments made by her attorney at the courthouse saying that. So hearsay. I mean, because what you're hearing is hearsay that hasn't even been presented in court, but
that's not evidence.
Hearsay, right? That's not evidence.
All right, Jason.
And then you have comments made by her attorney. That's just, he says the EMT was quite believable. I mean, that, I don't know, Jason. Which one? I mean, we're trying to be nice. I think we'd be nicer to you than if I try to ask a question on Kevin's show.
I'll say this. I've always believed Karen Read was innocent, but I believe it far more now than I did months, weeks, or even days ago.
Exactly. That's so true, Mazza. Like, that's me too, because I had my doubts at one point, and I am so sure on this. It's not even.
The other thing is when Jason says, well, the EMT or EMTs were believable, that's okay, but are they credible after cross-examination to the point that you find that their allegation that she allegedly said, I did this, I hit him, whatever the words are hold up with what the other evidence is going to be, and that beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, in order to do that, you would have to believe that it makes sense that none of them told other police officers, told the cops to interview her, did anything with this important information, told the cops who investigated, and then miraculously in April, when they're getting hauled in front of a grand jury and it's clear that she's going to get indicted, that this happened. I mean, how is that compelling evidence? And it happened 4 times. And for this to happen, to see the same movie every day, where all these witnesses say she said this, and the first time I said it was in April in the grand jury, or alternatively, I did tell other unknown police officers or unknown doctors or unknown whoever who don't exist, apparently, they have the burden of proof. And this is just not impressive evidence at all.
I look at some of the media members locally, and I'm starting to see more local media members buy into this. They're buying into the Free Karen Read movement. They're buying into the people that support Karen Read. Kirsten Galvin from NBC 10, when they do their nightly recaps.
I just saw her. Yeah, she looks like she's in. She looks like she's Free Karen Read.
Yeah, totally. She is so high on this movement, and you can tell she may not be saying it outright, but you can tell. And this is what's happening now.
And I think she likes the people too in the movement.
Yeah, I agree. 100%, 100,000%. And the more people that start to see this, the more, because a lot of them have been outsiders to this, and now that they actually start to kind of look behind the curtain and see all this, they're just like, wow, this is totally different than I expected. And I can see why these people are so positive and so awesome and so friendly. And Karen just seems like this nice woman too. And the more and more I hear about what they're talking about, what I'm seeing here, like these Free Karen Read supporters are telling me one thing, and then I'm listening to what's happening in court, and those things are playing out exactly how they told it. I can kind of see now, because they've kind of been on the outskirts of it. Now that they're coming inward, Vinny from Court TV, he was, even from an earlier standpoint, I felt he was a believer in it. And you just see more and more. It's the same thing. If this can happen to 30,000 people that are part of the Free Karen Read movement, if this can happen to members of this media, then it can happen to a jury.
Well,
and all of the members within it.
If you're saying that people already are kind of, heading that way, then this is, again, as bad a disaster as it can get, because the reality is, these are the good witnesses for the DA. So we're told. Okay, this is the good stuff.
Yeah.
We haven't seen this Proctor guy, the Alberts. McCabe and all this other stuff where they're just going to get eviscerated and gutted like fish. I mean, it's going to happen. You know that. And at that point, what are these people going to think? I mean, if that's what people are saying after,
I want to ask Jason in the chat, what will you do if Proctor pleads the fifth, Jason? Would you admit then that Karen is innocent? If Proctor pleads the fifth, what are you going to do? He's our litmus test here. Here he is. Here he says, I'm totally open to changing my mind. Absolutely. But that's what I mean by lawyer tricks. Reasonable doubt is not factually innocent. That's all.
That's true.
What if this was your son? His family knows. I would say, what if Proctor pleads the fifth? Would that change your mind? I want to ask you that, Jason. What do you think on that one?
And I would add this, just as you consider that fascinating question, whatever his personal problems are, whether he's a misogynist pig, an admitted violator of Karen Reed's civil rights, everything else that he's done, he admits his bias, whether he admits that he lied about, knowing the Alberts or taking gifts or whatever, put all that to the side. I mean, if he takes the fifth, then this is the witness who's supposed to say, I took control of the car. And again, the car is everything to the DA, right? I mean, they need the car and the so-called glass and all that stuff to match what she says. And if their own chief investigator who built the case is saying, I can't testify because I may incriminate myself, you may think that's not impressive, but this case is done. I mean, practically, not literally, but
DOA, dead on arrival.
Yeah, I mean, effectively, if they had any dignity at that point, as we said yesterday, they would pack up their bag, tip their hat, and leave the courtroom and skulk away and just pretend this never happened if he takes the fifth.
You get three people that have apparently claimed to hear Karen Reed say, did I hit him? Or I hit him. And that's about all I got. It's just, three people claiming this. And then once Alan Jackson goes into the details, is it on your report? Is it this? Is it that? Have you told anybody? No, you didn't. Well, if this is such vital information for us to know and the jury to know, then why didn't you report it earlier? Why didn't
Now,
you
it's
say
bad
something about it earlier?
because you have three people, and in the normal course of this, usually in a case where you have multiple people hear admissions, they would, to some extent, corroborate each other, and you would argue that makes it more reliable. They were together, they were this, they heard it at the same time. As I understand the choppy presentation, here we have about four people, including the cop, even though it's different evidence that he claims he heard, who are all claiming they heard things at different times, some of which doesn't even seem practical or possible given where they were, who they talked to. Then you add in, as you just mentioned, none of them are documented in any statements. The people that they claim to have told apparently don't exist. And I think very damningly, none of them reacted with the information they claim they were told in a way that common sense would tell you they should, because they're all getting up there telling you, we need information to help save a man's life. We need to know what happened. They want to help someone. And if somebody says, I hit him, where? Wouldn't that be kind of an obvious question? What does that mean? Did you hit him? For example, some of them were claiming, I had no idea he had injuries to the back of his head, a very serious, gash in the back of his head. Well, wouldn't you want to know if she says, I hit him? Where'd you hit him? I hit him in the back of the head. They might look at the real serious injury at that point. Because if you remember, the injuries that they all saw initially, putting aside the hypothermia out there in the cold, I mean, obviously that's a bad thing for somebody dressed like that lying around. But the other than these swollen eyes, the injuries, the visible injuries, didn't appear that bad. The most obvious visible injury was on the back of his head, right? And they didn't know that. So if they're saying they want to treat someone and they need to know as much as there is, and this woman walks up and says, basically, I hit him, Where, how, what with, when, how long has he been out here? I mean, put it this way. If she says I hit him, doesn't that mean, well, I was out here with him and I might know how long has he been out here? Wouldn't an obvious question be, how long ago? How long has he been out in the cold? How long?
She was actively
Absolutely.
conversing with just about everyone on that scene, from police to everybody. She was talking to that cop just when that cop told her, you see it in that video they showed on day one of the trial. She finds out what happened to John. She puts her hand in her mouth and she walks away in horror and starts pacing around frantically. At some point, if she was that communicative with the police at that point or any other point before that or after that, then if she was saying, I hit him outright, then someone would have heard it. Just like you said, Mark, to your point, which is what I'm kind of bouncing off right now, there would have been follow-up questions on that. And I think it was you on X today that made the comment that probably she would have been arrested on the scene or apprehended or detained on the scene. I'm not sure if
Well,
that was you.
I can tell you this. I mean, again, having a lot of experience with police officers, she's standing around there and she says, I hit him. I mean, just play this hypothetical out. What do you mean? I was driving and I ran him over. Okay. Again, accident. Let's assume she's not saying I tried to hurt him. And let's further assume that, everyone says that she looks to be severely intoxicated, which, is what they're claiming. Okay. If she appears visibly intoxicated, she says, I hit him and drove over him. You'd think there would be follow-up questions about, what do you mean? What happened? Ma'am, have you been drinking? Portable breath test. Okay. Cops in every police car have a portable breath test. Every single one. Okay. You stick a thing in them, blow on this. She comes up, whatever. They might have asked the other people, were you with her? Do you hear what she said? Did this really happen? I'm not saying they're showing up on the scene and they're looking to arrest someone, but when she's running around, according to them, telling anyone who'll listen to her that this is my fault, I did this, I'm to blame, and I hit him, it's hard to imagine that they all don't look at each other and say, I have a thought, maybe this lady drove over him, or maybe she hit him in the back of the head. I don't know, but they do nothing. They don't even ask her, what do you mean by that? What are you talking about? What does that mean? I hit him. The DA says it means I hit him in the car, but maybe someone clubbed him in the back of the head with a sharp metal object. But they don't even ask her. And these are EMTs who are telling you, my job is to diagnose severe injury, to know how to treat. And I would suggest to you, even with no EMT training, that if somebody said to a regular EMT that I hit someone, that the logical follow-up question is, where, when, what did you do? Show me. And in the back of the head, And I think at least one or two of these EMTs said, I didn't even know he had an injury in the back of the head until he was in the ambulance.
Yeah.
Nope.
That was Nuttall, I believe, that said that. He did not notice that. Yeah.
All of this impacts the reliability of their testimony.
Oh, yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
None of these witnesses who have testified yet are credible.
Now,
none of them.
Someone asked, why didn't they bring out Proctor in the beginning, the lead investigator? Do they usually bring out a lead investigator at the beginning?
You can do it any number of ways. I'm not surprised, like, for example, that they brought out O'Keefe's family to start. That's a common thing. I know some people are like, why are they doing that?
Yeah.
It's to humanize
right.
somebody who's just talked about as a dead body. And the theory is, if you bring in a close family member, that's kind of a way where the prosecution can punch a jury in the mouth, get them to lean in and say, this is a real person here. He's not just somebody we're talking about in court. They appear to be doing it chronologically, which is kind of the way he did his opening, right? He just kind of, which is not always the best way to do it, because it can drag. And, in this case, they might have wanted to do it because they believe that they were going to get a good start. I mean, if this came out the way they wanted, I don't fault them for the order of witnesses so far, because the way they could do it, before they can start the investigation, they would have established with witnesses why we looked at her. And the answer would be because she told 857 people, on the lawn and Snow that she did this. And the problem is, although they have some evidence, not very credible, that she said that, the jury isn't so much thinking about that, or at least as much as they're wondering, why do they all know this now, but none of them said it then?
Right. I just can't imagine someone walking into the bank and quote unquote saying, I have a gun, and everybody in the bank not doing anything about it in terms of running out of the building frantically or calling the cops or something like that. It's one of those things. If there's a situation where someone's on the ground and they're unconscious and someone clearly says, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, then why aren't the cops asking her questions? There's none of this at all.
I got to tell you,
Yeah.
the most damning part of all of this fiasco, it's not even what happened on the scene. The most damning part is when the cops come calling later, meaning days later, when they are officially interviewing witnesses because they're trying to prosecute Karen Reed. Okay. And the witnesses know that. Okay. And frankly, I would have cross-examined the witnesses. I would have asked them that at the time the police interviewed you, had you heard about this case? Had you heard about it? Had you heard about Karen Reed being investigated, arrested? Right? I mean, in other words, when the cops come talk to these people formally, they know why they're being interviewed. They're trying to gather evidence against her. And then they're saying, tell me what happened. And in that context, knowing that she's the target, knowing that she's been accused publicly, knowing that she got arrested, correct me, guys, what, a day or two after this incident?
Yeah, a couple days later.
Okay.
Yep.
Knowing all that, we're interviewing you about what happened. And you didn't say she, and by the way, in the news, she ran him over. It's in the news. That's the theory. And they don't tell the cops, oh, guess what? She told me I hit him. I hit him.
Right.
That is devastating.
It's the same thing with the taillight. Was it really planted or was it partially planted? Why was it on the report 45 shattered pieces of tail? All those things seem to magically just drip into the whole police report days afterwards. And all of a sudden, oh yeah, it's Karen Reed that did it. Let's go right out and arrest her and put her in handcuffs now. And it's all over WBZ and every other local news outlet. It's just, they were hatching a plan on the fly. And that's what brings it back to a lot of us think it was whatever happened inside that house was nothing that was planned. It was just something that sporadically happened with some kind of conflict escalation, and then it got out of hand, and then basically they were covering it up as they go. And that's,
you know what?
Yeah. I want to point out one thing. This is a great comment here because you mentioned it, Maz, about the media attention. The media said that there was a video of her doing it. That video doesn't exist.
That is
just
so outrageous and so prejudicial. But you mentioned, you're talking about the cover up, and I was thinking about that earlier, and something hit me, not right away, but it hit me a few days ago, thinking about Proctor. One of the things Proctor said is, she ought to just kill herself. I wish she would kill herself. And obviously that's just so disgusting.
Wild.
Yeah.
But it's actually, the more I thought about it, it's more important than just that. So if the theory is that they had to move this away from the Alberts, okay, I mean, that's the defense theory. Okay, fine. And they're going to put it on her. All right. They're going to put it on Karen. That's, what the defense is alleging. Well, think about it. What would be better than that? Because creating a false narrative is hard. It may have to hold up to scrutiny. Look at us today, 2 years later, 3 years later, picking it apart and whatever. What would be the easiest solution? We say she did it and she's dead. Because you know what that means? Done. So Think of that statement in that context, not just that he's a disgusting pig, which he is, but when he says, I wish she were dead, is he really almost musing and conflicted and wistful, saying this would be much easier if we said she did it, but we didn't.
No trial.
She doesn't bring in the scummy lawyers who are going to rip this to shreds, right? Because lying is hard. Covering up is hard. If she's dead like he wishes, as sick as that is, it's over.
Beverly
Exactly.
Hills Cop 2.
Sounds like a mob boss. I mean,
Beverly
you
Hills
know,
Cop 2. Eddie Murphy's in the car with his fellow detectives, Bogomil, Taggart, and Rosewood, and he says, if you frame Kane, you kill Kane. Kane's the alphabet killer. Case closed. And I hate to bring up the JFK assassination, but Lee Harvey Oswald was the patsy there. He was shot several days later. Case closed. You know, that's
Don't
kind
be
of the
surprised
plan. Yeah.
if the defense leans on that statement as not just an indicator of how disgusting this man is, but that he's actually saying how the brain is working as the wheels are grinding to his friends, that, my God, my life would, I mean, who needs this aggravation? My life would be easier if I didn't have to deal with this. And if you know, I blame her, she doesn't have to defend herself. The Alberts are not in trouble and no one's checking my work, right? I mean, if God forbid, if that ever happened, no one would question any of this. You would just assume what a horrible tragedy, and that's the end of it.
we are up over 1,400 people on YouTube watching right now. It says 2,000 total between all the platforms. Amazing. Amazing. We got another question from Dag Nabbit, who sent us a super chat. Thank you so much, Dag Nabbit. He says, or they, I'm not sure if Dag Nabbit is a male or female, so I'm going to say they. Does Mark agree with people who say that Mass State Police would never plant the only physical evidence in the case? Implausible
Well,
Proctor would plant?
correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that the chemist, that disgraced chemist who opened the prison gates to God knows how many men, Annie Dukin? Is that what her name was?
Yes, it
Correct
is.
me if I'm wrong. Did she
Yep,
work
that
for
was
the
her.
Mass State Police?
Correct.
So would they plant evidence or lie about evidence? That question's answered. Do I think that all cops would do that? Of course not. Do I think most cops would do that? No, but I don't care what agency you work for. The majority of cops are good, but there are bad cops, just like there's bad lawyers, bad cashiers, bad everyone.
Yep.
So you shouldn't look at somebody having a badge and saying, well, they would never do this. You know, is it implausible that Proctor would plant evidence? No. I mean, I don't know what he literally did, obviously, but what I do know is, do you think a cop who takes an individual's cell phone and searches it without a warrant is more or less likely to also do other illegal things?
More
I think
likely. More
I think
likely,
the
100%.
question begs the obvious answer. Okay.
Mhm.
Do you think a cop who while violating that person's rights, looking through their phone, is scrolling through attorney-client communications, is more or less likely to plant evidence? I would suggest to you, more likely. The same thing with the nudes. And then the real problem is, do you think a cop who has a personal relationship in people that are involved in this in some way and have a dead body lying on their front yard and are, you know, burning phones, deleting messages, doing all kinds of weird things, is that cop more or less likely when he says, don't worry about him, he's good, he's a cop? The answer is more
More
likely.
likely. Yeah.
Doesn't mean he did. I don't know. But again, reasonable doubt. The defense is going to raise all this. And what is Lally going to say? Yeah, but it was snowing.
Trust us. Yeah. Yeah. It was snowing. Trust us. I'm glad you brought up Annie Dukin. There's also, as other people were noting, the Mass State Police overtime scandal. And you brought up breathalyzers earlier. There's been breathalyzer issues with the Mass State Police too, where they totally lied and did fraud, and a bunch of breathalyzers are going to be tossed out. It's a big question of whether we can even use them in the state anymore because
They
of
got an
what the state
overtime
police.
scandal as it is,
I would
let
say
alone all the
this.
other things, right?
I mean, each cop ought to be judged on their own merits, irrespective of what agency they are. I mean, I would never say, if this guy works for the Mass State Police, oh, he's full of shit. I think that's not fair.
No, it's not.
On
But
the
it
other
does
hand,
happen. And the
it
CDL
does happen.
scandal.
It
does happen.
absolutely happens. But what I would say is, you go on the evidence in front of you. And the bottom line is, and this is one of those just unfortunate facts for the DA who brings a flawed case, is that your chief investigator is a scumbag and a criminal, a misogynist, and everything else that goes with that. That's just a fact. So you own that. You have to deal with that. You can't avoid that. And you have no choice but to go with him, assuming he's willing to go. And, you'll have to deal with that. And if you think that, can help you establish her guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, good luck. I don't.
Another question came in. Can you address how a jury might feel if Proctor pleads a fifth, but says it's because of a Fed or IA internal affair investigation? Can see the jurors believing that.
Jury will never know what that is. If he says he's pleading the fifth, that means there's no further questions. All right. The whole purpose of pleading the fifth is that you're not going to say anything. So the jury would never know. Moreover, I have no doubt that any judge, not even this one, which we can talk about her. I have a different view of her today than yesterday. But no judge, not just this one, would allow this to meander to talking about federal and internal affairs based on that. So the short answer is, if Proctor pleads the fifth, which I have no idea whether he will or he won't, if he does, how is the jury going to feel? They're going to feel like I feel, like you feel, and like every other normal person feels, which is, what is this guy hiding? I mean, it's just human nature.
What is it? Yeah. And you're not going to trust it anymore,
Right.
especially if he's a lead investigator. Another question came in. It said, Mark, I saw you respond. Actually, it's not a question. It's more like a comment, but I wanted you to talk about it anyway.
TV lady?
Yeah, he's talking about Julie Grant. He saw that you talked to her today. What was that about?
This is what I was talking about earlier, where I think it was Flametti, the first guy today, who said, "Here we go. I hit him," and he said it on direct. And she did one of these tweets, with capital letters, all caps. Oh my God! You need to take a deep breath and relax and fan yourself from the excitement. And I think that's who he's talking about. And all I responded to her was, why don't you wait for cross? And if you're on court TV, they should know that more than anyone. I mean, they deal with this stuff all the time. You should never, ever, ever assume the impact of anything on direct. I mean, it could be. I mean, obviously, there are witnesses who are credible and don't get impeached effectively. And then when that's over, you say, wow, that's a powerful witness. But in this case, what happened? On cross-examination, Flametti, spontaneously combusted just like all the other ones.
Yeah. Let's talk about the judge, since you brought up the judge, because it's been a continued lot of comments about this judge and the sighing.
I get to hear Mark's revised opinion on this one.
Because I think I'm sticking
somewhat
with
revised,
cautiously
revised.
Okay.
I'm not troubled by the rulings still. However, her demeanor is outrageous. Okay, I'm there, so you got me. Okay, and the problem with the sighing, that's not even the biggest problem I have, although you can hear it. And I almost wonder if she's even aware of it. You probably not. But I know somebody had mentioned this yesterday, and maybe I didn't see that testimony, but she wanted, after one of the witnesses today, after cross-examination, the DA is allowed to do redirect. And redirect is supposed to be limited to just the scope of the cross. And then a party is allowed to do recross, where the scope is limited to the redirect. Under the theory, each time somebody goes up, it narrows and narrows because there has to be an end to the examination. But I think we can all agree that fundamental fairness requires that both sides have the ability to at least try, if they feel it's appropriate, to make a point to do that. And after a witness's redirect today, she tried to excuse the witness, and Jackson had to say, well, I want to recross. And she said something like, a couple of questions or something dismissive. That's totally inappropriate. And the other thing that she did, which I find inappropriate, which I'll get to the video in a minute, I guess, but she'll sustain an objection, fine, whatever. And then he'll rephrase the question and the DA will object again. And instead of saying overruled, she'll say, no, I'll let him have that. That's editorializing. Okay. That's her saying, whatever. It's not important, but he can have it. That's not appropriate. It's not. That is dismissive, and she shouldn't be doing that. So I think her demeanor, I'm with you on that. I don't like it.
I agree with you 100% on everything. I think her rulings are fine, mostly her demeanor, the sighing, also the breaks. It seems like she's always taking breaks when they're gaining steam. I mean, I noticed it on our stream when we have good, compelling testimony happening on the stream. Our numbers go up every time our numbers hit like the high. She calls a break and the numbers come crashing down. It's so weird.
Well, I did see, I mean, I had it on in the background today when I was doing something else. I did see that they were going to use a video to cross-examine Flamati. The DA did not object. And she said, come up, what's going, I want to talk to you, sidebar. I imagine speculating, she's saying, what are you doing? And do you have foundation? And I need to know. And, then they kick out the jury, and I assume that they're going to have a discussion, which of course they block out from the viewers in the public too. And then she says, okay, she comes back and then immediately says, let's take a 10-minute break, which turns into like 20 or 30 minutes. And at that time, the concern I would have is that, you've cost the defense about 45 minutes of momentum and rhythm and tempo. And, it might have been one of those moments where you talked about earlier, jurors are, leaning in, they're rapt, they want to hear it. And, you lose the mojo. That happens. I mean, that's a real thing in a trial. You're in a rhythm, you want to go. And if you stop that, people get tired, maybe they get distracted, and you just have to kind of ramp it up again. And, I think that I don't like that kind of stuff that she's doing. I don't. But also, at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. It's annoying for the lawyers. It's annoying for us. It's not going to impact the outcome here. I mean, it's not going to matter.
Good. I hope it doesn't.
No.
I'm with the complaint department here. We're taking some complaints. Keeping it reals has a serious issue with me right now. He's really upset. It looks like. He says, "Why do you keep posting the same female post over and over? You need to be more fair with listeners." I don't know, man. I don't think about it. I just hit post them. If I see a good comment, I don't even realize if it's a female or male or half the time. I mean, most of the people are like, look at these names. Aussie Insider. Is that a male or a female? I don't know.
I'm not touching that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. So I guess I'm gonna have to just put guys up now to keeping it reals happy. You know what?
Real, trying to keep it real.
Little Irish girl. She's definitely female, I think.
There you go.
She says 97% female audience. That's not true. But what I will say, since we started covering Karen Read, our audience is much more female oriented. I look at the numbers. YouTube shows us is like 65-70% are women. So that is true that we have a majority female audience. So I don't know, man. I'm trying to be fair. And keeping it real is a female. I don't know. She's a female complaining. Is it jealousy? Is this a woman fighting with women thing going on? What's going on here?
Keeping it real. Guts to keep it real.
Yeah. I think I'm fair. I want to ask everyone else. Do you think I'm fair with putting up the comments from people?
Yeah.
I think I do a pretty good thing. What do you guys think? Yeah, we'll poll the audience. You guys can talk about something else, and I'll put a poll on the YouTube audience. I want to see what they think.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna go over and vote on this myself.
Yeah.
Is Mike fair?
Is Mike fair with the comments?
Yeah.
So what else do you guys want to talk about while I'm setting up this poll?
Well, I'd like to talk about the Walsh gentleman there that spoke today. He was one of the probably unsung people on the stand earlier this morning. But Francis Walsh, he's a lieutenant paramedic from Canton's Fire Department, and he heard Karen Read exclaim a question: "Is he alive?" Which was great. I noticed that David Yannetti only spoke with him and cross-examined him for roughly about 34 seconds, and that was it. But I noticed David Yannetti, while he was brief, he just wanted to get those kind of things on the record, that she was concerned, she was looking out for John and just all that, which I think is important. It was a little piece by David Unetti, but I think it's an essential thing.
No, it's very important
yeah.
because the DA, I mean, look at the whole theory of their case. This angry, bitter woman who was pissed off about the relationship, and you know, they have this pathetic motive of, you know, they were fighting and she was angry, you know, which makes her unique to the extent that she's like, you know, 500 million other people in a relationship. So that's, you know, real impressive motive. So crazy that naturally what anyone would do was pick a blizzard and just try to back up into someone, you know, over 60 feet. And then, of course, shortly thereafter, run around distraught, giving every indicia of a concerned, distraught woman whose boyfriend is lying there dead or dying, and asking what she can do, trying to give him CPR or whatever she's doing. So yeah, that all of that is important because it's not consistent with this really, really weak claim that, you know, she must have done this because their relationship was struggling. I mean, you know, after all, they went to Aruba and fought or whatever the hell that was. So naturally, when you fight on Aruba or accuse somebody of an affair, even though you plan future vacations, as I read somewhere, and other things, naturally what you do is pick a blizzard and just truck them in the road.
Right. In reverse, you know, preferably in reverse, not driving forward, but in reverse, you know, why not?
You know, I got to tell you, initially, and I thought this was in the driveway. Okay. And now I guess I'm understanding that the allegation is this was in the street. Am I right?
Correct. That is correct.
Okay.
Yep, it was in the street. Yep.
That's even worse for the DA because, you know, if it was in the driveway, it would be more plausible that they have an argument. I'm not saying it's true. I don't believe this, by the way. I'm just saying it's more plausible. They have an argument. She's pissed off. She's in the driveway. He's getting out of the car, and she just floors it out of there in anger. And oops, hits him. Panic attack, leaves, decides, oh God, what are you doing? Comes back, and it happens. Let me be very clear about something. If their theory is that she was in the street, in the snow, unplowed, no sidewalk, and he's standing 60 feet behind her, and she floors it in reverse on the street for 60 feet and mows him down, then the DA's only theory in that case, if they have a shred of credibility for this pathetic case, has to be this was intentional. She tried to kill him, and that there is no two ways about it, that this was a hideous, hideous act where her intent was to end his life. Because if you back into someone with a 60-foot head start and at that rate of speed and just floor into him, but of course that leads to the other question, which is in where are the injuries consistent with that?
Right. So two things to add to this. So that need to be noted. I actually just saw someone put it in the comments too. There was a curb on the sidewalk. Turtle Boy reenacted this last summer or early fall where he drives backwards, and he actually hit the curb because the road itself, when you're backing up from the distance they suggest, the last 5 to 10 feet angle off with the road. So what happens is if you go directly back in reverse, that 62
you're going
feet,
over the curb.
You hit that curb and you literally drive onto the lawn, basically. And that's what happened to him in that reenactment.
And she may not, in theory, if you believe any of this, you know, with the snow, you might not see that.
Right. Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, look, they're flailing with this. But that's why, you know, we keep going back to this. The fact that the witnesses in the last couple of days have not held up really puts them in such a bad place, because these should have been the foundation witnesses that had the jury thinking, why would she admit this unless she did it? And if these witnesses were credible, jurors may very well be thinking, okay, I understand the defense has all this weird stuff with, you know, deleted phone calls, how long to die in the cold, and this and that. But she said she did it. She said she did it. But all they're sitting here now is saying, well, maybe she said she did it. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of weird. And, you know, the other thing is, I'm a little confused about the snow. I know somebody said there was like 6 inches of snow, but a lot of the other people said there wasn't that much snow. I mean, they could see the body, like when they arrived. It wasn't difficult to see him.
Right.
And so I don't,
Yeah, it was
not-
significantly less snow when the incident occurred than when they arrived there, and all the footage you've seen throughout the court trial so far.
so if that's the case, and I think somebody literally just put a comment on this exact point, might there have been tread mark tracks in the snow or different grades of snow? Yeah, you know, maybe her car would have other damage if it went flying over the curb. There could have been undercarriage damage or something. I mean, we're speculating here, but you know, if you're the DA, aren't these the kinds of things that you would be trying to think about? I mean, if this is your whole case and the reality is, you know, we're asking these questions, we're speculating, they're fair questions, and we go back to what we said days ago, which is if the DA can't answer these speculative questions and they're left arguing speculation with speculation and they have the burden of proof,
Right.
they lose.
That's right.
That's
Now,
it.
here's the thing: if Karen Reed had blatantly done what they're suggesting she did, if she floored it in reverse and hit him, why? Let's just say for the purposes of argument that this is exactly what they said exactly happened the way they said it. Why not? Why leave his survival to chance? If she was out and out to kill him intentionally over an argument, why not look out the car and say, is this guy dead, and run him over again if she had to? Why not just put him down if you were going to put him down? But she doesn't do that. She just hits him. So they suggested and then left. That doesn't make any sense to me. If they,
I agree.
and then
I
that
mean,
lends itself to, if that's the way it went, then that sounds like it would be involuntary. Then she was backing up. So if she was doing a 3-point turn, she would have bumped him or something. But again, why would she, if it was involuntary, for example, then why would she have floored it in reverse from like 62 feet at 24 miles an hour? How does someone accidentally and involuntarily do something? And so it tells me that it wasn't voluntary. It wasn't even involuntary. The only obvious outcome is that she didn't do it at all and she was set up.
if their claim is, you know, 60 feet in reverse at 24 miles an hour in a blizzard where the roads are slick and all of that, I don't know how, again, assuming arguendo, you want to credit that, which I don't, but if you do, but let's play it out. I don't know how you conclude anything other than her intent was to kill him intentionally, meaning murder him. And I mean, that just seems like another one of these bridge too fars. It doesn't make any sense. And the other thing is this: if that's their theory, and of course they want to pin that on a broken taillight, which again, I just, her car ought to be, I think, more damaged. And I imagine that the experts maybe will speak to that. I don't know how any of that could possibly make sense. If that's the only damage to her car, he doesn't have, again, his injuries to his midsection or anything are not severe. So what's the point of it? What's their theory on the point of impact? The back of his head? Well, think about that. Is he sitting in the road?
They actually don't think they think he hit his head on the road is the official narrative, but that's not Kevin's narrative.
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not a medical expert, but if I was handling this case, obviously, like the defense attorneys, I'd be asking my expert how this, how that. There is a linear gash in his head. Not to get all ghastly for those who don't like to, talk about this kind of stuff. It's kind of a straight line and it's deep. How do you get that from a snow-covered road?
That's
right. Exactly.
But
that's the big question.
But I actually, that's the second point, which is if that's the case, and it's not the point of impact, what is their theory about where she hit him?
That's a good question. Like
because he has no injuries.
Yeah,
other
we
than
don't know. I mean, this is the mystery of it all.
Which is,
big mystery.
I would say this. I know we make fun of Plevin and his animated thing, but to his point, and this is going to just bear with me for a moment. For what to take place, if in any realm of possibility, if there was even a specter of a chance of it ever being her backing into him and him sustaining all those injuries, it would have to be something as outrageous as what Plevin animated, where somebody he was just bending. I mean, it would have to be that crazy and outrageous, which the chances of that are impossible. That's just not going to happen. Never.
No,
not a billion tries that's ever going to happen.
It doesn't fit. And the other thing,
the whole problem with this case.
Another thing which I find troubling with all of this is I assume if let's take the DA's theory and play it out, okay? He gets out of the car, they're fighting or whatever, and she decides to just, I'm gonna, kill this guy. I mean, again, I understand this sounds ridiculous, but presumably when that's happening, you know what he's doing? He's wearing 2 shoes, presumably. Now, could a car accident cause someone to lose a shoe? It could. It happens, usually at a very high rate of speed and all of that. But putting aside the rate of speed, where's the shoe?
Hmm.
Where the hell is his shoe? One might speculate, it's somewhere at 34 Fairview Road, meaning inside. I don't know. But if he was wearing 2 shoes and she hit him and left, and he was left there undisturbed for hours, then he's either A, wearing a shoe, or B, it's in the immediate vicinity. And what they would have found when they found, 45 fragments of taillight is a shoe. Where's the shoe?
Where is that shoe?
Is it, is it under the concrete pool? Is it, in the river
Belt's missing
somewhere?
too, someone added. We forget about that one. The belt. I forget about the belt. The belt was missing too.
How do they explain this?
Exactly.
I mean, even if it got knocked off in a horrible car accident, it would be there. And it just feels like these people haven't thought this through. They haven't prepped the witnesses. They haven't recognized that their theory makes little sense with the car accident, that the motive that they've offered, which is not an element of the crime, you don't have to literally establish a motive to find someone guilty, but the motive that they've offered is they fought like everyone else, not like hideous violence where they've attacked each other. They've threatened to kill each other in the past, where you might say, all right, or there's some real devious nature of their relationship. Someone was stealing money from the other one and they were going to tell a friend. I don't know. Their motive appears to be, well, there was some petty jealousy and, she tried to, hit on another guy and they fought in Aruba. And somehow that explains why this night of all nights, the night of a blizzard, I'm going to kill him. And of course, the best way to kill him is to back my truck into him and hurt my taillight. And the other
In
problem,
front of a house full of cops.
but here's another problem. If they're going to do this theory and you're going to go with it, as stupid as it is, in my view, you have to dot the I's, cross the T's, and you have to do this with belts and suspenders. And what I mean is this: you have to prove when that taillight cracked, if that's what you're going with.
Right.
Okay. And we know there's a video of her bumping O'Keefe's car, but where is this video from the library, which ought to show her car after she left Fairview? And like they turn over video, and if I'm wrong, correct me, please, but this is my understanding, but it's missing the relevant time period. And their response to that is, I don't know, I guess.
Yep. I don't recall.
What do you think a jury, knowing what they know
That's right.
already, knowing the defense theory, forget the Alberts and all of the Proctor stuff, what do you think they're going to think when they see that there was operable camera from a library in the town, which would have shown her driving right by, right after, or shortly thereafter, which could have shown the condition of her car? And sorry, folks, nothing to see here. We don't know where it is. So don't hold it against us. I mean,
Then you get the missing.
This is embarrassing.
The missing 45 minutes from the Canton Police Department, which is right in the time frame when Proctor and they had towed the vehicle. That's all. It's all constant coincidences.
Well, that's exactly right. That's the
all
word.
over the place.
And that's what the defense will say is, what another one of these, mystifying coincidences. It's funny how many mystifying coincidences there are, all of which inure to the benefit of the DA. And they say, trust us, don't worry about it. You shouldn't trust them.
No, not at all. It's just too much there. It's just like, it makes you raise too many eyebrows. And that's where the factual innocence comes in. If you can't prove that she drove by with a shattered taillight going by a library and that footage is missing, then you can't factually prove her guilt. And if they took it to the police station and the cameras were down for 45 minutes at the Canton Police Department, you can't prove her guilt. And if the neighbor across the street, who is allegedly friends with the Alberts, his Ring camera or whatever it is, doesn't have any footage of her backing into him, because they like I said before, they could end this. If they wanted to prove Karen Reed's guilty, they could end it in a matter of seconds. All they'd have to do is produce doorbell camera footage that just shows her backing into him and blatantly doing what they say, and they'd be, okay, great, she's guilty, you proved it. But they have none of that footage, and it only leads us to believe what we've always believed, is that Karen Reed's factually innocent, and they have nothing that they can do to prove that she's guilty.
And
That's
you know,
my
that's
opinion.
why the other day, what I had said was, I mean, I don't think they have any chance in hell of convicting her. I just don't.
Yeah.
I haven't, but you know, that's giving them a pass. I mean, there are times prosecutors try cases and they lose, and there can be harder cases to try, and they fight the fight, and then they look at themselves and they say, you know, you tried to do the right thing, and it's a tough case. But they don't deserve that pass. They should be criticized. And the reality is they've created a scandal, because I don't know how they ever indicted her. And I mean, it makes no sense. They never even considered the possibility that someone else, including very specific individuals, who I'm not saying did anything, but there's a reasonable basis to at least investigate other people.
This goes
And
up
they,
right to the DA's office, Michael Morrissey's office. There's been a lot of foul play in that office, a lot of protesting from our movement to them. And I just think that it's basically just everyone goes, well, all these people couldn't possibly be involved in a cover up like this. Well, I disagree, because they might not have colluded from the outset, but they might have just on a one-to-one level, you
But
know.
how do you even know if you don't investigate? And that's
Yeah.
why this district attorney's office, and you know, I'm sure you'll hear this, you could hear this from me and other people who are former prosecutors, they're a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to indict her, then at least be satisfied that you've dotted every I, crossed every T. No one else did it. And the reality is, oh, you know, how could there be a cover up? What are they doing? They're dismissing that possibility because everyone in the house said, well, O'Keefe never came in. Yeah, but these are the so-called people who might be involved. You just credit them carte blanche. You never search the house. We don't know what was in there. You never look into their backgrounds or just see what else was going on. They never did that, right? So how do you know? And on top of that, you still have, I mean, let's be honest, a just kind of pathetic case anyway. Even if there were no Alberts and cover-ups alleged, she still wouldn't get convicted if it was just she must have mowed him down. I mean, I don't see it.
Not at all. I mean, you're talking, I don't want to criticize Karen Reed's driving, but this is the same individual, when she tried to back out of the parking garage, accidentally bumped into his vehicle. And you're supposed to tell me she was going to drive 24 miles in reverse in the snow, 60 feet, and hit him with pinpoint precision. I mean, I'm not trying to pick on her driving, but you know, that's a heck of a reverse attack.
It is.
Yeah.
And you know, not to keep belaboring the point, but hit him where? I mean, and by the way, I don't think you need an expert for that. Okay. There is some degree of common sense here. And people know when you get trucked by a car, look, 25 miles an hour is not that fast to get hit.
Exactly.
But if you stood prone and just let a car come hit you from a distance of 60 feet at 25 miles an hour, and if it hits you in the stomach, the back, the arm, I'm pretty confident at a minimum, you're going to have some real bad bruising, some fractures, other kinds of internal injuries or whatnot. And he didn't. And that just makes no sense to me. And I don't think that makes sense to anyone, frankly. And I think when an expert comes in medically and says there are no injuries consistent with that, and then the defense has these reconstruction experts who say it doesn't make sense for other reasons, then what do you do? I mean, and I think a layperson also would look at her car and say, so he got all these injuries. He died from getting hit. And what happened to her car was the taillight broke. By the way, I'm not sure it would. I mean, I don't know.
That's
I
right.
mean,
No, you're right
would
about
the
that. It
taillight on
wouldn't.
a
You'd
blunt
have to.
injury like that break? I mean, I don't even know how the tail light would be the point of impact. Isn't the bumper sticking out
There you
farther?
go.
I don't.
There you go. Exactly. And then the head injuries, the vehicles tend to indent as they go up typically. And you'd probably need a sledgehammer or a pretty solid hammer to shatter that taillight in a 45 feet.
Even
And even when
then,
you get it out, you'd probably have to shatter it a few more times. Yeah, you'd probably have to
exactly.
hit the thing probably about 20 times to get it down.
They
That
don't
low.
break. They don't
Yeah.
break. Yeah.
No.
We had a couple of super chats that came in. One is more of a comment for Mazza. He said, tell Mazza he's right about Frank Walsh. He went to ask Bob went to school with him. He's friends with his son. So he said he's a very straight shooter.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I had a positive reaction to him today too. I was very positive on him, and I was very positive about Matthew Kelly as well today. I didn't have any negative thoughts about any of them, so I thought they were good.
Thank you for the message, Ask Bob. Dream Thinker said, do you agree that the defense has better command of these early witnesses with far greater detail, videos and all, than the prosecution does? And if so, I really want to know why you think that is.
Yes, because I'm paying attention. I mean, I think anyone who's watching would see that. I mean, what the DA is doing, he has his 4 or 5 witnesses. He's asking them the same exact questions. I mean, look, you have pictures of the snow, you have the video of the snow. You don't have to ask 5 witnesses, what was the weather and how long did you get? I mean, you know all that. So he goes through this technique, and then they say, we found him, we put him in the ambulance, we did all of that. And oh, by the way, she admitted this. And then the defense basically, on any given witness, has established what? That McCabe was creeping around and went in the house, that Karen Reed is the one who appears distressed. In other words, legitimately upset, as opposed to, oh, I killed him, about that. They've established that these witnesses who claim they heard her admit things apparently thought about it recently and didn't say it during the early stages of the investigation. And again, specifically, I would direct you to when the police arrived days later. That's when they should have been told, even more than telling other cops on the scene. And what else has the DA done? They've introduced a couple of photos, which I just laugh at. Their so-called crime scene photos are like a blurry picture of a patch of snow. What are they doing? What is that? I mean,
what a joke.
Honestly, that's their, what do you see? I see snow with, some blood. Okay, but what am I supposed to do with this? What does it mean? Yeah, so the answer is yes, the defense has much better command of the witnesses, and that's why I believe so. They're advancing their narrative, their theory, and establishing reasonable doubt, and the DA is not establishing what they want to establish, which is she admitted hitting him, because in order to believe that, you have to dismiss all that discrediting evidence, and they have a burden of proof. So yeah, no, the DA is losing by a lot.
Amazing amount of viewers tonight, 1,495 just on YouTube. So that's pretty amazing. That's almost a record, I think. Make sure everyone like and subscribe tonight. Make sure you like the video, the live tonight, please. 1,400 of you. I want to see over 1,000 likes. That would be great on this video tonight. I also want to thank everyone for donating tonight. We do have poll results too. Is Mike fair posting comments? Yes was the majority. 66% said yes. 26% said who cares? That's second place. 5% said maybe, and only 2% of you said no, I'm not fair. So
that's good.
Thank you for 98% of you either not caring or agreeing that I am fair. Thank you so much. That I like you. I like those answers. Those are good answers. Thank you so much.
At least 93% support there, Mike. So you're good.
Yeah. It's only like 2% out there.
Right.
It's probably Kevin. Kevin's probably watching right now. He's probably on Court TV and still watching the stream.
Yeah, I'm going to catch that later tonight for sure. It was very entertaining watching that yesterday when Nick Rocco just basically savagely just blasted him at the very end. He goes, I get my facts from documents. You get your facts from the Albertson McCabe's. And you see everyone in the background just laughing so hard when he made that remark. It was hilarious. Loved it.
And Kevin got no response on it. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And Kevin started it too, so Nick got to do that because Kevin.
Yeah, he did. He attacked the PR. Yeah, Karen Reed's PR team. So, which I guess we're all a part of. Apparently, we're all like paid, I guess, to support that. But
And Kevin's the only reason he's on court TV is because he decided to be that guy.
exactly.
I mean, he wouldn't be on court TV if he didn't make that choice. So
Right.
Kevin's got a lot of self-interest that he never wants to, admit.
Yeah.
Luna's mom said I voted for Who Cares, and I sent super chat that he never read. Shit happens. Oh no, did I not read your super chat? There's been a lot of super. I've been trying to keep up. It's hard. There's so many comments tonight. Let's see. I just read your super chat though. That one. I don't know if there's another one. You probably did send me another one. Thought we read that. I thought we posted them all tonight. I don't know. I'm looking. Oh, you did. You had one early. But you know what? The reason I didn't ask Mark this, he doesn't know Lally. You're asking him about what's.
Yeah, I mean, look.
He smokes cigarettes in the parking lot before he goes into court. That
Well,
much
you
we
can
know.
tell only because he hacks like during it's
like I do.
I hate when I do this, but I'm also I try to be call it as I see it and be honest. And it can be bad or good in terms of feelings and in terms of I don't know who tells him if he's good or bad or whatever, but his courtroom presence is atrocious. His delivery is atrocious. His preparation is atrocious. Everything he does in the courtroom is atrocious. He continues to have his partner do his objections, which I don't understand. So I don't know if that's by design or he's asleep at the switch. I don't know why he is the one handling this case. I don't know if he's considered the superstar. If that's the case, I feel bad for anyone who might be a crime victim in Norfolk County. I don't know, but what do people tell him? I don't know, but he is he's outclassed clearly by Karen's lawyers, and that's a problem for the DA because they're prepared, they know what they're doing, and more importantly, they're gifted in the art of trial practice, which, in addition to having a courtroom presence that it doesn't just include, white knuckling the podium and flipping your legal pad, but they have a theory and they put it out in their opening. And every cross-examination, if you may notice, is advancing that theory. And that's how you get a jury's attention, which I think they're doing. And every time they discredit a witness, it's moving better towards what they're alleging, which is, what's coming up in the summation. Why do you think these witnesses remembered later that this is what happened? And they're going to put it on Proctor or somebody like him. Okay. That's what happened. Like the one kid from a couple days ago, the impressionable one who, the puffy coat who just melted, who otherwise seemed like an earnest young guy. They're just going to say, they got to him or they huddled and other things. One of the things that they're going to talk about as well is, they snuck in a question the other day to, I forget which, I think it was that witness. What's his name? Nafal or the
Natal?
kid.
Natal?
Yeah. About, you guys talk about this at the firehouse, right? Yeah. They're going to come back to that. The reason they did that in summation, that's how they're going to explain how they all somehow might have come up with the same story, because even if you don't believe that they're part of a conspiracy and whatnot, if one person says something and everyone else talks about it, after a while, it's like telephone, the old game where it takes on a life of its own. And the next thing you know, yeah, that's what I remember. So Lally is an interesting choice of person to try a case like this, particularly one which is so emotional and heavy and complex. And, look, sometimes you need DAs who are like, some DAs make patties, others make filet mignon. You know what I mean? Lally's like a patty maker. Nope, I think you're silenced.
Mike, you on mute?
Yeah, I'm on mute. Sorry. I people give me a hard time because I haven't put up all the super chats lately on the last two on last night and tonight. I'm sorry. I'm trying. There's so many that come in. Here's another one. Megan says, I've seen others who've seen Lally in other cases that he's usually much better and are not sure why he's fumbling.
Could be the pressure. Look, again, if you're kind of that kind of personality, the worst thing you could do is have a case that is national news and being live streamed daily, right? I mean, if that's not your style, what's the worst thing you want is to be having people like us critique your performance every day. I mean, that can be stressful if you're not comfortable doing that. I don't know if he's been good in other cases or not. All I can tell you is he's not good at this case. So far, anyway.
This comment's great right here because I think about this a lot. It's frightening that this could happen to anyone of us without Karen Reed's resources or public support. That's the other thing. Like we fundraised for her. There's been a lot of money raised for her in just the public support. That's a scary thing, isn't it, Mark? I mean, you see this all the time.
Listen, yeah. I mean, look, the reality is, everyone's entitled to a lawyer, but not necessarily a good one. And, she is lucky that she has resources, whether it's from family support. She has two very accomplished lawyers, clearly. Someone who might be less fortunate than her. It's not what the public would call a sexy case. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but to the public, it's a salacious, fascinating case. If it's just a regular case of some mope, who, he may have a public defender, and many public defenders are fine, but, may not have the resources against the awesome power of the state. And, does he plead guilty to get it over with and avoid a lengthy prison sentence? Maybe. If he goes to trial, does he develop all the things that these lawyers have done for 2.5 years? Probably not. And, might someone like that get convicted where somebody with resources won't? Yes, that could happen. And it's unfortunate. But on the other hand, that's not Karen's problem if she's being falsely prosecuted, and God bless her for using every resource available to her to, have herself found not guilty and move on with her life. So, good for her.
Have you all seen that movie Trial 4, that documentary about Sean Ellis?
No.
Oh, it's amazing. I'm Facebook friends with him. I definitely want to hit him up and try to get him on the show. Sean Ellis was a young man who wrong place at the wrong time. Cop gets killed, murdered, shot like 6 times in the face, like execution style, and they blame it on this kid because the deal was the cop that got killed and several other cops were all robbing drug dealers. And the other cops knew that if they didn't find a patsy to blame this on, that it would most likely be one of the drug dealers that was seeking retribution, and it was going to blow up in all their faces. So they wanted to push it away from them.
Right.
So they found a patsy, and this kid ended up in jail for over 20 years. And his public defender actually did a really good job, even though he's convicted. And there was mistrials, and then they were going on the 4th trial. And on the 4th trial, they came to him, and he had been let out of prison because the Supreme Court basically gave him this retrial. He was out on bail, and the DA came to him and said, okay, well, if you plead guilty, and this is for a murder charge of a cop, if you plead guilty, we'll say time served, and you'll never have. He said no.
Good for him. And
he won. They ended up dropping the charges. But when they dropped the charges, the DA still claimed that he did the murder, even though we all know he didn't. It's just, he was speaking today with the Mass Bar Association today too. So he's become a leader as a black guy, and he's such a nice guy. Like he really, really a nice guy. Like you could tell. Like I'd be so much angrier. I don't know if I don't think I would have. I would have given up. I mean, after 20 something years.
Yeah. No, it's a thing, but fortunately, for her sake, it's not her situation, and she's fighting and fighting like hell. And somebody put up a comment I saw, they thought she was going to plead guilty. I don't know. I don't know why they would think somebody like her, plead guilty to what? I mean, manslaughter, that I mowed down my boyfriend and my
Right.
life is, maybe I won't go to prison for 25 years, but you still ruined my life in many other ways for something if she didn't do it, she didn't do it. And on what evidence? And, the reality is, good for her for not pleading guilty and being able to deal with it. She seems to deal with this pretty well. I mean,
Yeah, she does. Now, this guy, Sean Ellis, got a big payout from the state of Massachusetts after the fact. Do you think that's likely to happen with Karen Reed if she's found innocent? And how difficult is that?
that's real difficult. See, I mean, this is where it gets real tricky. So, just because somebody gets acquitted doesn't mean that, they have a lawsuit when they do. I mean, if the police have probable cause to arrest you, they're basically immune from any lawsuit. And so probable cause, by the way, for the police, they're allowed to rely on civilians. You don't assume that people who tell you information are lying, right? I mean, even though it turns out they often are. So if they arrested her because, we were told by these people that she said she hit him I'm making this up. We claim that we found all this evidence, then she has a problem. On the other hand, if they can establish that Proctor took a few trips to the house and threw some glass, and did a little of this and did a little of that, then she's going to be a really, really rich woman, because it's not just about suing Proctor. You're suing the county, the state, everyone, or the state police. They're responsible for him. And then, so yes, if she establishes that she was framed, she'll have a lawsuit, no question. If you can't really establish it, prove it, like affirmatively, not just it could have been, then, and she gets acquitted, then not necessarily. But if it turns out that you can prove that Proctor or some of these other people literally framed her, then yeah, she'll have a nice lawsuit for sure.
We get another question here. What does Mark think about Katie McLaughlin's in-court identification of Karen? That little hand movement.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It kind of like she went like a weird, right? Like just kind of a bizarre gesture. I don't know. I thought it was weird, but I don't know. I don't know what it meant or didn't mean. I think that McLaughlin, just based on her direct, which is bad because, again, she hasn't even been subject to cross, but I thought her direct was hard to believe, frankly. I think she's going to get gutted tomorrow. I think you're going to see more of this. I didn't tell anyone. I don't know who the cop is. I don't know this. I don't know that. God knows what she's going to say about her relationship with the Alberts. Either way, it's one of those things. If you're the defense attorney, do you really care what the answer is? I mean, if she tells the truth, she's acknowledging that she's, knows them. And of course, she'll deny it had anything to do with it. If she denies knowing them, then she's going to get hit with this other evidence. And now she's conclusively full of shit, and it's even worse. So I think McLaughlin is not going to be pretty. She's going to get destroyed, just like all the other ones. And she seems to be, of all of them, the most vulnerable, simply because her direct testimony seems the most implausible. And we know before she's even crossed that she has a relationship. So she's going to have, I believe, not a good day tomorrow.
It's going to be pretty interesting to see how that turns out tomorrow with Katie McLaughlin. Someone else asked earlier if these witnesses, if it's proven that any of them lied, how likely is it for them to get any charges?
I mean, I guess, you don't just get charged with perjury because the defense says you lied. I mean, perjury has elements. You have to show that, they made an intentionally false statement and it was material, meaning relevant to the subject matter, and all of this other legal mumbo jumbo. But, again, you could have an opinion that somebody lied. It doesn't necessarily mean that a prosecutor could prove it. That's number one. Number two is, who's the prosecutor? Normally, it would be the Norfolk County DA if they perjure themselves in a state case in Norfolk County. The feds can't just come in and make a standalone perjury state court case. They don't have jurisdiction for that. Now, if it was wrapped up as some kind of larger scale thing, maybe that's different. But unless there is compelling proof of like really bad lying, I mean, like really bad, I wouldn't assume anyone is going to do anything about it. And certainly not while Morrissey is the DA. I mean, think of the political, he's a hack, right? He's a political hack. I mean, he's a politician and lawyer second, right? I mean, isn't that kind of obvious? So politically, is he more interested in doing justice or saving his own ass politically? If he were to acknowledge that, his own witnesses that he's been publicly defending perjure themselves in this case, to go after them would be admitting I'm just a complete screw up and this case was flawed. And why didn't we know that? And the political damage I think that he would suffer would be terrible. So I have no confidence that he would.
Another question came in is why didn't the Commonwealth have a whole team on this? Why is it just this guy Lally? That's
a really good question. Other than his, resident objector, I guess, from witness to witness. I don't know. This is a huge case. I don't know. I agree with the question. That makes no sense. It's a lot of work. It ought to be divided up. It's also, again, human nature. It's easier when you're working with other people to run ideas, talk. You take this witness, you do that. And he seems to be doing everything. And yeah, it's bad. I kind of feel bad for him, sort of, on that point. I mean, I would think in a case like this, there'd be a much larger prosecution team.
Now, someone's noting that you're a great Twitter follow also. Your Twitter is Bederow Law, at Bederow Law.
Yeah.
People should definitely follow that. Mazza gave me a little message. He had to step out. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to make it back. We hope he is.
Back.
Oh, you are back.
Yeah, I'm back. Mazza Media on X too. They don't forget to plug me. Come on, Mike.
That's right. Mazza Media and the Young Jerks on X. Make sure you're following all three of us. We're getting some good numbers. I mean, I bet all of my accounts moving up. I'm guarantee your accounts are moving up too, aren't they? Are you getting more followers every day on there?
I imagine so. Yeah. Oh, sorry, that might have been for Mark. Sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
Numbers are moving up. I want to thank you both for being here tonight. It's almost 9 o'clock. Definitely have to read some Venmos off, but I want to get like your final thoughts or even anything else that we missed tonight that you wanted to bring up. We'll start with Mazza Media first.
Sure. I think that the jury getting taken to 34 Fairview tomorrow is a great thing. I think that's something they definitely need to see in person, and I think this is going to significantly benefit the defense over the prosecution. So I think that's a very good thing. I'm also looking very forward to McLaughlin getting cross-examined tomorrow, and I think that's going to be pretty entertaining actually to watch, to see how what kind of approach they're going to take and all that. But it's going to be a day-by-day thing. I think that there's really nothing that they've really done so far that the prosecution-wise that's really going to affect Karen Read negatively in the eyes of the jury. And I think anything that anytime anybody's confessed that they said that she hit him, Ellen Jackson and David Unetti have done such a great job at getting that refuted and calling out questions to their reporting and not telling anybody that's a police officer, doctor, or nurse, or any kind of authority whatsoever. And furthermore, if so many people heard it, why did they never talk amongst themselves about it and decide to say something? So it's clearly a cover up. And day by day, moment by moment, person on the stand after person on the stand, it's just going to continue to come out nonstop. And it's just a matter of when this thing's all just going to end and Karen Read's going to be declared not guilty because she is factually innocent, and free Karen Read.
Thank you so much, Mazza Media. Follow them on X. Make sure you're following them.
For me, again, looking through the lens of a lawyer, you look at reasonable doubt as a lawyer as opposed to factual innocence. And as I've always said, even from the beginning, before literally the evidence started coming in, based on what we knew it would be, that I didn't see any possible way that she could be convicted. There's just so much reasonable doubt. And of course, that's how lawyers talk. That's how lawyers are always going to talk. So that opinion hasn't changed. But just as a person, putting aside my lawyer hat, although having the lawyer analytical brain, if you will, I'm totally moving towards, I think she's innocent in every meaning of that. Again, innocent is a word that doesn't exist in a courtroom, even though everybody wants it to. It doesn't. All the jury's going to say is she's not guilty. But I feel incredible. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of people who have been wrongfully arrested, wrongfully convicted, who have gone through hell and had a fight like hell. And some of them have good endings and good stories, and some of them have terrible endings or endings that are not yet happy. And I am, based on what I'm watching every day and knowing that this was supposed to be the bombshell stuff with what happened and what they claim she did, I am totally moving in the camp of, I think she's actually innocent. And the lawyers clearly believe that too. And don't think for a minute that the jury doesn't see that. They see their righteous indignation, their outrage. Compare that with what they see in the DA. He's, looking down, he's like a drone. He has no presence, no passion for anything he's doing. And I think that the jurors are going to start believing, even though it's not their responsibility to assess innocence, but if they start thinking, my God, she's really innocent, then obviously they can't prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. So I'm open-minded, of course. I'm not literally in a camp without willing to listen, but from what I've seen already, where are they going? And I'm starting to believe with some degree of confidence that this poor woman is going through hell and is actually innocent, and it's a nightmare. But I think the nightmare will end soon. And
I hope
good
so.
for her.
Now, someone was asking, is it possible? I was thinking about this too, that like we haven't even, like you said, we're only getting supposedly the prosecution's best witnesses. When the defense has all their expert witnesses, their PhDs, I think it's totally going to blow the jury's mind.
Right.
But is it possible we never even get there, that after the prosecution rests, that there's just a verdict right there? Like, is that possible? Does that happen ever? Someone asked about that.
Rarely. I mean, in every case, the defense will move, at the close of the process, what we call the people in New York. I said the people, the Commonwealth, and what the term in Massachusetts. You make a motion, but the standard at that point is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The standard at that point is, have they established what, a prima facie case? Is there evidence, if believed, that would be sufficient? So the question is, again, take the witnesses who said she did it. Okay. Again, put it in a light most favorable to the DA. In other words, you don't say, oh, but they weren't credible. They said she did it. Presumably, they're going to present evidence of finding taillight fragments, right? Where people like you and me roll our eyes and say, well, come on, that's not credible. But let's assume in a light most favorable to them, they have that. They claim they have a cocktail glass fragment either at the scene or on her car. So do I think that they would get a dismissal at the close of the DA's case? No. But when that doesn't happen, or if oftentimes what a judge will do is reserve decision, because it's kind of a weaselly thing to do, because what happens is judges don't like to make decisions that they don't have to. So you let the jury have the case. And if they find her not guilty, then she doesn't have to say anything. Then if they find her guilty, she has to say, oh God, am I going to throw this out because, they shouldn't be doing this. So don't expect the judge to dismiss the case, but don't read into it. It doesn't mean anything. Even this judge who everyone hates.
All right. I want to say we're 150 likes away from 1,000 likes on YouTube. That's amazing. I want to thank everyone for supporting us tonight, watching. If you haven't yet, please like it. I want to get to 1,000 likes tonight. That would be awesome. I also want to ask a question about this proffer because it keeps coming up. There was a federal proffer to Higgins, apparently, that got mentioned by the defense attorney for Karen Reed. What does that mean?
All right.
What is the proffer
So,
agreement?
yeah, no, that's common, and I'd be real careful reading too deeply into it. So at this point, it's a known thing that the feds investigated. I mean, that's no longer a speculative thing. So offer is when the feds want to speak to someone, they come in and they offer you what is colloquially known as a queen for a day, which is an opportunity to proffer. And the theory is, who the hell in their right mind wants to go talk to the government if you're going to use what I say against me? So what a proffer agreement does, or again, what lawyers call a queen for a day, is you come in and you sign an agreement with the government, which says, if you come in and tell me the truth, we agree that in the event that there is a prosecution against you, that we will not use what you tell us in our direct case, or what we call a case in chief. It does not preclude prosecution. It's what they call limited use immunity. It's not full immunity, but it provides you immunity to the extent of what you tell them. So if I'm making this up, so I'm not defaming the man, this is a hypothetical, okay? If Higgins went in there and said, yeah, you know what? I saw them do this, okay? And I got rid of evidence. Suppose he admitted wrongdoing. They couldn't use that statement against him, even if they'd have to develop other evidence. But importantly, a proffer agreement or a queen for day is not a formal plea entry. It's nothing other than, if I have a meeting with you, okay, you're not going to use a statement against me. It does not mean that he's a target, which is a fancy word the feds use for we're coming after you. It doesn't even mean that he's a subject, which is the word the feds use for, well, maybe, we don't know, you're kind of one of those, or a witness. But there can be reasons why even a witness who's not a target, who has a lawyer, would say, if I'm coming in, any lawyer like me, I mean, I do this all the time. Yeah, well, give me a proffer agreement. I mean, why would I bring this guy in? Now, what did he say in that proffer agreement? I don't know. I mean, I've read that he's accused of, destroying his phone or something like that when he wasn't supposed to, which is also problematic potentially for him. But the mere fact that he made a proffer is not incriminating per se. I would not put that anywhere near the level of, oh my God, like this Proctor stuff. Very different. I think you're muted again.
I keep doing that. Sorry. I don't know why. That's it's so funny. I've the last few shows I've been doing that a lot. I don't know. I've been coughing too much. Everybody hit that like button. I appreciate everyone. We're over 925 at this point. Very interesting on Proctor more than the proffer. I like that. Proctor is more damaging.
Proctor is in serious deep doo-doo. Okay. He's got problems. All right. Real problems. I'm not predicting what's going to happen to him, but I mean, he is useless as a police officer going forward. I mean, he literally searched her phone without a warrant. No, I mean, that's an intentional violation of her constitutional rights. So put this case aside. What agency would use him as a credible witness? DA's offices have a list of cops, like they have a what they call the naughty list.
Yeah, the bad list.
Yeah, in New York,
use.
The DA's office is called a naughty list, and they circulate it, and they say, you don't use this guy. He's not credible.
Right.
Proctor is going to be on that list. Trust me. And I know he's the cop on this other big case of that lunatic who allegedly, hacked up his wife and all of that, but he's finished.
Yeah, he's going to be on the, it's funny because we have those lists too. We found out through I think it was the Globe or somebody, but there's those lists, and now they have this thing called the Post Commission, which they basically created because of those lists, those unofficial lists that the DAs were hiding. So I think Proctor's going to end up on the post commission.
How that guy is working today and like literally working on investigations is there's no words for that, because any lawyer who gets a case with him, that the DA needs him to give credible testimony to establish something. Hello. I mean, he's going to just he's tarnished. He's ruined. He ought to resign if he had any dignity at this point. He won't, whatever. You know, he wants a pension if he's entitled to one. I don't know, but he's going to get destroyed in this case. And all he's going to do is become, you know, a national story, which will make him even more unusable. So he's finished.
Going to be very interesting to see what happens tomorrow morning with this cross-examination of McLaughlin. I can't wait to see if it's I'm assuming it's going to be Alan Jackson again, but it could be Yannetti or Little. Do you think there's any rhyme or reason on who the defense uses on the cross-examinations, or is it just they hand it off to a lawyer to do it? Like, how do they pick those?
I don't know how they're doing it. And, you know, let me say that both of them are really good. You know, so we're not just critical of everyone like Lally. These guys are good. I think from watching, you know, this is my own view. I mean, Jackson appears to be the alpha, right? I mean, I think that's a fair. And normally the way you might do this, again, I'm not, and by the way, Yannetti's fantastic, very good lawyer, great opening for what this case is. Normally, if Jackson's the alpha, then you would see the other lawyer do the opening, and Jackson would do the summation and perhaps more of the cross-examinations. But again, they may have I mean, what do we know? They divide it up however they see fit. But, you know, when it comes to like Proctor, the Alberts, you know, either one of them seems more than capable of doing this. And she's in great hands. I mean, they're both really, really good lawyers.
Now, I said we were going to wrap it up and close it up, but I start thinking of other questions. One of the
fine.
Tomorrow, especially, this is one of the questions I want to ask, because they're going to the scene of the where John O'Keefe was found. 34, you know, they're going to the house. How do you think that might affect the jury to actually go to the scene of the crime?
I think it helps the defense, because if I'm a juror, you know what I'm looking for? Where's 32 and where's 35? I'm just curious. How far away? How did that happen? You know, that whole issue.
The wrong address.
And then I want to know, when I go to the house, you know, where's the body? But again, to me, the DA is stupid. Okay. Why would you do this visit before you've introduced evidence of where you think she mowed him down? Like, so they can't, I mean, they're going to speculate where this happened. You do this after. In other words, you argue a theory. The car was here and this is where they went. And then you take the jurors and you say, okay, my God, there's the car. This is where he landed. Is this plausible? They're doing it in a way where the jury is going to just assume, well, the car must have been over there. And how did he get here? And they don't even know. What are they doing?
Yeah.
So I think this is, you know, great for the defense. The other thing that'll be good for the defense is, I would assume they're going to be curious to know, okay, so this is where he was found, you know, all of this and all of that. And then they're going to look at the front door and say, so where was this McCabe woman creeping around? How far away? Can you see it? Like, what happened? But
and
again,
all the people coming out of the house. Like,
yes,
and I don't know how, the dozen plus people that came out of the house.
All of these issues favor the defense narrative because they've been putting it out there. Another thing I think that they might find interesting is, you know, how close is the house, the bedrooms and whatnot, to where this happened? In other words, if there's all these people in the house, how did they not hear it? How close are the other houses? Why didn't they hear it? I mean, if you're backing up 60 feet in the snow and then you just smash into a guy, there's got to be some noise. How far away is that? I mean, to me, This all favors the defense. All of it.
Good news then.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be up early. I think it starts at 9 a.m. I think that cross-examination starts right at 9 a.m. I believe. So we'll definitely be covering it. You can watch it on our channel. I want to thank everyone for contributing tonight. I want to thank our guests. Are the Bruins winning? What's going on? People
Tie
are
game. Tie game. No score in the second period. That's why
no
my head
score.
keeps turning like this.
Yeah, I know. I noticed.
It's all right.
I need a TV in this room so I can see what's going on too. But I'd be watching court TV. I want to see the Jokers on there tonight. My entertainment is watching court TV bring on the worst people.
I need the Cleveland Cavaliers to win. So because if game 1 against the Celtics is on Sunday, I think I've weaseled my way to go to that. So, but it has to be on the weekend because obviously during the week I can't do
You're
that.
busy. So that'd be a Sunday game. Is it during the day or night?
Day. So, only if Cleveland wins. Otherwise, it won't be Sunday. So as much as I don't want Cleveland to win, I need them
You
to
want
win.
them to win. Yeah, for that game. That's very cool. So you'll be back in Boston, maybe.
It's up to Cleveland.
Awesome. Let's go Cleveland. Let's get Mark back in Boston this weekend.
Get us here. I really want to go to Kowloon again and go to the game.
Oh, I'm going there tomorrow night. I should
every time I
I'm
come
going
down,
tomorrow night. I might get protested, but yeah, I'm going to Kowloon this weekend. Actually, haven't been
Good
there
old
in years.
Kowloons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Great place. Great
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
The scallops are amazing there.
Awesome. Maybe I'll try some scallops.
Oh,
Get the Saugus wings. They're good.
That's what
Saugus
I'm
wings are
going for, the
amazing.
wings and
Poo-poo platter. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm already hungry.
Yep.
Well, I want to thank you both for being here. Mazamita, you got any final comments again before we drop off here?
We're good. I just elaborate on what Mark just said. Like I had said to earlier as well, is that this is the jury being chauffeured to the 34 Fairview Road is only going to play into the defense's favor. It's going to really just put what they're saying and help them picture it better as they're kind of establishing this over the course of the case. So it's going to be awesome. And once again, free Karen Reed. Here we go. Day number 4 tomorrow.
I can't wait. Looking forward. I want to thank you guys both for being here tonight. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Mike
Mike.
Bederow and Mazamedia. Thank you.
Yep.
Take care, Mike. Take care, Mark.
You
Bye.
too. We'll see each other on X soon. I want to thank all of our supporters tonight. We had quite a few super chats. I want to thank Elise Sullivan on the super chat, Jay Torres, Suzanne, Luna's mom, Megan. I think we posted most of these. I try to read them. We're covering so much, it's hard. Mark loves angels. Thank you so much. Luna's mom again. She's always, thank you, Luna's mom. Luna's a dog. I love dogs. Say hi to Luna for me. Sarah O gifted 5 memberships tonight. Thank you so much, Sarah. Teresa Coelho, thank you so much. Good question. I know we did answer that one. Nobody can figure that one out, Teresa. How did that get shattered? She also became a new YouTube member. Thank you, Teresa. A lot of new YouTube members over the last 48 hours. Our moderator, MJ, thank you so much for helping us. She was noting that ever since my birthday, I keep putting it on mute. I did that before my birthday, but it's gotten worse. It's true. Since my birthday, I've just been chill. I've been overworked. I've had too many dogs. I got a dog here tonight. You might have seen me get up. I got up the last show too. I'm micromanaging. I'm working too many gigs at the same time, but it's a good thing. And I'm chill. I just I'm very relaxed. It's probably a good thing. Ask Bob, I want to thank you so much for donating tonight on the super chat. Dreamer Thinker, thank you so much. Jim Jerry Gunn. He's donated before. Thank you so much, Jim. And Dag Nabbit, another frequent commenter and donator. Thank you so much, Dag Nabbit. Twice tonight. Thank you, Dag Nabbit, twice. I also want to thank Lacey Ann for contributing, becoming a new member. Karen Barrows from becoming a new member. Look at this. Unbelievable. Some guy with cancer. I know we answered that question. Thank you so much for the comment in the super chat. Some guy with cancer. Hopefully you beat that like I did. Debbie, thank you so much. And again, Luna's mom, we also had some Venmos come in. I want to thank all the Venmos tonight and the Cash App. Let me see what we got tonight. Catherine asks at $10. She said, hard work with an excellent stream. Thank you so much, Catherine. Jen Altman sent $10. She said, another great stream. Loving it. Thank you so much, Jen Altman. Megan Benison sent $10. I think it was either this morning or last night, $10. Thank you so much, Megan. Darlene sent $10. She said, fantastic show. Thank you. And Ronnie sent $10, said, great show. And Mark said, you great shows. Appreciate you. $10. That was from last night, actually. And I just want to check the Cash App real quick. And I want to thank everyone. I'm not sure when we'll be doing our next show, but you know us. Just check our YouTube because we usually do them last minute. $10 came in on behalf of Sammy for the Young Jerks. Thank you so much on the Cash App, Sammy. And hold on one second. Grammy D. It's good to have a Grammy. It's Grammy D said, thanks for the great shows. Great panel tonight. Thank you so much, Grammy D. That was on the Cash App. Diane K sent $10. She said, for the free Karen Reed support from Vermont. That's where Chloe's rumored to be, up in Vermont. Thank you so much, Diane, for the contribution. Sarah O sent $20. She said, thank you, Mike. Awesome shows. All right. That's it for the super chats, the Cash Apps, and the Venmos. Thank you so much for listening. We had a record number of viewers tonight. Still got over $1,000. We just watching me read the donations right now. That's pretty amazing that you guys are still watching us. I'm just checking the last comments. Thank you for voting on the poll. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for donating. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you. I think we got to 1,000 likes tonight. If we haven't, please like, if you haven't yet, please like tonight's stream, share it with your friends. Let them know about it. And apparently we did. We got 1,000 likes. Jeno was telling us. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody. And thank you, Jeno. You're always watching. I also want to thank, again, MJ. She's been in our in our chat, moderating it, putting all the links to our guests, asking people to subscribe, thanking them. She is awesome. I really appreciate MJ. Please be nice to MJ in the chat and thank her as well. She makes it a very nice and safe place there. And she keeps the conversation good, too. So I want to really thank MJ, too. She always gives me little reports after and tells me how things are. And I really appreciate MJ. William Lafferty just sent $9.99. He said 1,000 pennies for 1,000 likes. Thank you so much, William. That's actually 999 pennies. I don't know why they don't call it $10 on YouTube, but they have these self-selected $9.99. So it's close enough. I think it's close enough for me. Actually 999 pennies, right? Yeah, that's do my math right. Thank you so much, William. And again, yes, thank you, MJ. Everyone's noting MJ. Yeah, she's awesome. Thank you, MJ. Yes, it is close enough. Thank you so much, William. I really appreciate it. Yeah, everyone should get butt dial tonight. We haven't even gotten to the butt dials. You know, the butt dials are coming up in trial. I can't wait for the butt dials to come up. It's going to be great when the butt dials come up. I can't wait for the defense witnesses. I can't wait to see the expert witnesses. I can't wait to see Michael Proctor on the stand or pleading the fifth. It's going to be exciting. I'm just reading your comments. Yeah, MJ is the best. Lauren said, love her. Peggy donated 20 memberships. We just got 20 memberships. Thank you so much. Wow, Peggy, that's awesome. So 20 of you are getting memberships. Someone else bought memberships tonight too. So a lot of you are becoming new members tonight. Some of you actually chose to and threw down, and some of you getting the free membership. So that's awesome. I really appreciate that too. Amazing audience. amazing support, amazing guests. I really love Attorney Bederow and Mazda Media too. My girlfriend was watching the other night, and she last night I think it was, and she's like, "Wow, who's this Mazda Media?" She doesn't always listen, but when she does, she always has some feedback. And she likes the attorney. She's like, "I like the Attorney Bederow, but I really like that Mazda guy." So she's into Mazda Media, and I hear that quite a bit from people. So I'm really happy about what's going on the show right now and what we're doing for Karen Reed. And like I said, I believe she's innocent 100%. I have no doubts. And I would, like a person said, would you be open to evidence? I am always open to evidence. I'm always looking at it. But I just don't see it happening. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow morning for the cross-examination of Katie McLaughlin. Have a great night, everyone. Thank you